For more on this, let's bring in Phil Kerpen, Unleash Prosperity Principal, and Mohamed El-Erian, Allianz Chief Economic Advisor. Gentlemen, great to see you. Mohamed, just to put a fine point on what Edward was saying and his guest as well, employers seem so confident about the strength of the economy that they are hiring despite being in the middle of the war. I mean, a lot of these figures, a lot of these hirings came in right as we were starting the war, and in the midst of it, we may be tapering off, even though there is this tragedy of the loss of a pilot, although let's pray that we do find him. But employers aren't turned off from hiring by what's happening with the war.
Yes, David, certainly at the start of the war, and this captures the start of the war, employers were happy to hire, and they hired way beyond what the consensus forecast is. Also, it's nice to see the unemployment rate coming down. This is great news for Wall Street. The only two qualifiers is that labor participation came down, which is the supply side, not what employers want, but the supply side of the labor market. And the other thing is the concentration in healthcare. But it's great news for Main Street, less so for Wall Street.
Yeah. Let me just stay with you for a second here on that supply and demand of the labor market, because we have seen about 2 million people leave the United States, self-deportation, and presumably those were people who were employed. How much of an effect, and again, there are many more people that have left that we don't know about, that have not been above the radar. How much effect has that had in the diminution of the labor market?
So we're clearly seeing it. The supply of workers is less than what it was before. Is it a problem at this stage? No. But we don't want to end up where Europe is, where China is, because we need a dynamic labor market. We have a very dynamic economy. The demand for labor changes. So it's important to have adequate supply and skilled supply. This is more, David, about skilled immigration and how we retool and retrain our labor force. That's what this is about.
Yeah, and Phil, it also says something about the great worry and panicking about the AI revolution cutting the workforce terribly. In fact, just today, we had a piece by the wonderful business analyst known as Bernie Sanders in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if you read his thing. And I'm just going to read the headline for you. AI is a threat to everything the American people hold dear. It kills jobs, equality, connection, democracy, and maybe the human race. Congress must act. Well, maybe not now.
Well, this is the classic Luddite argument, David. He's basically saying, all the blacksmiths are going to be put out of work. And then, you look historically, we've had a lot of major transitions, economy-wide transitions. At one point in time, the firewood industry accounted for 28% of U.S. GDP. Right. We went through going from agriculture being the whole economy to a manufacturing economy to an information economy. And I think that what's happening now with AI is going to end up being very, very positive. Sure, there's going to be some transition pain, but we're going to be higher productivity overall. We're going to be much wealthier. We're going to have higher living standards. We're going to keep shifting our workforce into healthcare as we get older, and we have more people available for that because we're more productive across the economy. I do think that trend is going to continue. But another thing that, you look at that report today, you look at that huge boom in construction jobs. Yeah. A few months ago, we passed a landmark. We now have more construction spending on data centers than we have on office space in this country. That's only going to continue. So there are ancillary benefits as well to the AI boom. And of course, Bernie should not fear the future.
Well, and he saved his own personal hope for the last bit, because after he talks about how it's going to kill jobs, equality, democracy, the human race, he says Congress must act. That's the point. He is a socialist who wants the government more in control. That's what his panicking is all about, right?
Every time the left says that something's going to cause the end of the world, it doesn't matter what the something causing the end of the world is. Their answer to it is always give them more money and more power and more control. And so, of course, Bernie now has a new reason that he needs to control everything because of AI.
Mohamed, the Fed has this deathly fear of growth. We've seen that in the past. Of course, you want to be economic about it. You call it the Phillips curve that says if you have stronger growth, you got to have higher inflation. I'm just wondering if, I mean, obviously the market went down as soon as the futures market, because the markets weren't open today, went down when they got the news because they thought, well, this would put a stopper on any kind of rate cut and maybe even cause the Fed to raise rates before Kevin Warsh comes in. What do you think?
So I don't think they're going to raise rates. I think this Fed will remain paralyzed. Unlike the other central banks, they seem to be stuck in this don't know what to do, so we're going to do nothing and we're simply going to say we're well positioned. There won't be a rate hike. The market did think that the probability of a rate cut has gone down slightly because of today's report. So that's what we saw. That's why yields went up. And when yields go up, it means borrowing costs are higher. So that is the one bit that's unfortunate. On AI, I just want to stress, David, I am so excited about the AI promise for productivity and growth, but it's not automatic. We're seeing a few companies understand that the power of AI is in labor augmentation, labor enhancement, and the worry is too many are going to take the shortcut of simply labor displacement. So there is work to do to make sure that the adoption of this incredible productivity enhancing promise is done in a positive manner.
Yes, but there are also things that are going to happen that we really cannot conceive right now. That's exactly what happened in the 1980s with the technological revolution. We didn't see a lot of things. We didn't see the whole social media empire develop while we were looking at our antique Apple computers and such. There are elements of that. There was a wonderful economist named Peter Drucker who used to write about these things and say that it wasn't the actual invention that was significant. It's the way in which the economy adapts to that invention. And that adaptation is impossible to foresee right now what's coming. And that's why I think jobs are coming. Very quickly to Phil, on the market itself, doesn't today's jobs report indicate to you that once this war is over, the markets are going to take off like gangbusters?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I agree that the Fed is going to be frozen in place until there's a new chair. So I don't think there's much fear of a hike. I don't think that's realistic. But I think, you look at all the ingredients right now. We've got a pretty strong labor market. We've got very good tax policy with permanence on the business side. We've got very good regulatory policy. And we've got good energy policy, even though we currently have very high prices, but only because of the war. So if the war ends, I think we're going to be we'll be going on, hitting on all cylinders.
I agree. Gentlemen, great to see you. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. Phil Kerpen and Mohamed El-Erian, you're great.